So, hi Mike, how
Hey
are you
Maria, how
today?
you doing? Yeah, doing great.
Yeah, me too. Well, thanks for joining me today. We agreed that we will have a conversation with you on networking because you are a professional in that. And I know from your profile on LinkedIn that you have almost 4,000 followers with whom you talk on a daily basis. So about networking and meaningful connections and transformation. It's a very interesting topic. So yeah, thank you for joining me today to talk about that. It's great to have you. Let's maybe kick off our, so to say, online masterclass. I'll ask you to introduce yourself in just one sentence.
Well, one sentence. Okay, that's I would say, let's see, one sentence. Mike Weber, lifelong sort of learner, definitely a collaborator. Current now, excited to be new CMO for a company called Applied Data Corp. And let's see what else. Brand strategist for the last 15 plus years.
Great. That's what we need. Exactly the person we need. So I saw on your profile, you have a very beautiful phrase in your introduction, which is everyone can be creative and innovative with the right tools and approach. Can you maybe talk a little bit about these tools and approach, of course, and also why do you find it important to be creative and innovate people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that I have told people, or like, there's some things that I've personally become more comfortable with over the last, like in my professional career. And one of them is that everyone can create, right? Everybody has a creative side.
Yeah.
And I say that probably more than other people because I've built my career from a more left brain approach. Like I'm linear in my thinking. I like to build off of things versus like, pull an idea out of thin air. I see something that I think works and I apply it as a reference in another space or an adjacent opportunity. And a lot of the times you can get typecast professionally because people look at a title or they look at your background,
yeah,
and they say, well, this person knows how to do segmentation, therefore they are a numbers person, right? They are a left brain, data-led marketer. And that, I think, is sometimes the furthest thing from the truth because they don't understand your skills in applying that kind of knowledge and input into creative outcomes. And so one of the things I think you have to say to yourself is that you are creative and everybody can be creative. It's just that you have to be supported with the right, like, confidence building, the right cues, the right tips and tricks to get started. Because to pull a phrase from a creative that I've worked with recently, the hardest thing to do is start, right? The hardest thing to do is write something down on a piece of paper because in most cases, people put pressure on themselves to come up with like the greatest idea at the beginning. And most great ideas and ideas that actually change, answer the impossible questions are outcomes of lots and lots and lots of bad ideas. So are there a set of tools? I have some, and I continue to learn, from coming up with like writing down lots of different problems and truths that may relate it to a big, massive challenge as a way to break it down into something you can solve very quickly and then add all those ideas up to come up with new perspectives for the big problem, or getting lots of people involved very quickly and help in bringing them into sort of like this, sparring opportunity to challenge and to think about things in new ways. There are a lot of different things. It'll probably take too long, but I think that the crux of the whole point is that to do marketing and branding well today, you have to move really fast, and you have to be, you have to be more inclusive than ever. Everybody can be, like, back to the point, everybody can be creative, and they should be in their own way.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned, that people put professional titles in front of them, and then sometimes it is, not only not clear what they can do, but also like how to approach them, because sometimes people just want to approach other people to have some conversation, and maybe they find something interesting on this profile, but they're not sure, like, okay, he's such a senior guy, like, how can I start a conversation with him if I don't have a senior experience? Would he talk to me? And then when I see, like, a person having some personal things listed on his profile, then I kind of I can have some starting point for the conversation. I can start with that, and it's much easier to break the ice, so to say. To talk about topics that are not necessarily business related, but something personal.
That's right.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a blessing and a curse.
What?
Because I said LinkedIn is somewhat a blessing and a curse to our, I think, society now, in that the curse is that you look at people, I think, compare themselves to other people more than ever.
Yeah.
And that does not help your career, because you need to be you. You need to learn for yourself, and you need to learn your own style, and you need to go on your own journey.
Yeah.
And what it also does not include, it doesn't really include your real skills. When you have a real conversation with somebody, right? You meet them for the first time, you start to hear their life story, and you probably have a much better take on the type of skills that they can offer, versus if you just looked at a piece of paper and said, what have you been your last 3 titles? Titles do not tell a story. I think the benefit is it gives you a chance to now access a huge world of people that I think many I've found are really open-minded and available and ready to talk. But then, to your point, you need to have a reason to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And you need to treat every conversation as some type of opportunity, be it today opportunity or tomorrow opportunity. And so I think that, having that first chance to really open up and say, find something you could talk about that doesn't start with title is more important.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I also find it's very helpful from people who write something personal about themselves, because they kind of invite you for a conversation. That they are open to talk about other things rather than business. So yeah, and what you said about LinkedIn, I think indeed that we can, like, on one hand, you do look at the other profiles, and you compare, and you say, okay, I'm maybe not as good, and can I stand out in the competition? On the other hand, you also can kind of look at these profiles, and you can learn from other people, and make some conclusions for yourself, what can be improved. So that's indeed this constant process of using it, I guess. We can summarize like this. But I think in general, networking has a great power, and it's what you also mentioned earlier, that it's not necessarily for now. Like, I now send this personal message, the person doesn't respond to me, or even if he does, I think, like, this is networking. But it's often is also something beyond, right? Can you maybe talk a little bit about, like, what other things people can do on LinkedIn, or just in general on networking, rather than just sending messages or requests to connect?
Yeah, I mean, so I just have to speak personally. I think one of the things I do a lot is ask myself what areas I feel professionally vulnerable in, be it a topic, a skill, in general, something that's going on in the world that I'm not well versed enough in. And I might be, and this is again really open, I might be embarrassed to ask somebody in my own business or in my own sort of small circle, because it's something I feel like I should be well versed on my own time. But the best way to become dangerous and to get up to speed quickly is to find somebody that's an expert in that space. So that's a great starting point for LinkedIn, because people love to talk about things they're good at and things they're working on now. And what better way to hear about something that's happening than to talk about it and learn from somebody playing in that space or with that challenge. So that's one big thing that I think brings a lot of value, because then a lot of people want to talk about what they're working on. Like, they don't get the chance, right, once the day's over. And a lot of people probably aren't excited about that as much as they are. I think the other thing is, frankly, asking for help around all kinds of things, right? LinkedIn is a great sales channel, but equally, there are a lot of people in your professional life, like, you have challenges, how to deal with things. And it's not wrong, and it's a great idea. I think anytime you ask for help from somebody, again, there are a lot of people that want to help other people. I genuinely believe that. And I think that that has happened more in the last probably 18 to 24 months. There's a lot more open-mindedness and willingness to be supportive. So I find that to be a great place where somebody's potentially reached out to me in the past and I've done a very small thing for them, connect them to somebody else or make a recommendation, make an introduction, and to sort of turn it back and knowing them and maybe a little bit of their background, use that person as a starting place for a question about something that I'm trying to work through.
Yeah. And I mean, that also what we are now touching upon is like, this business communication becoming more and more human oriented. So it is, I think we also see that a lot on LinkedIn, that indeed people do talk more about their personal life. And what we see people posting there is not only about business anymore, right? It is also about just their life, their families. Of course, some of the posts about work.
I think being open.
Yeah.
I talk about it as like open book business.
Yeah.
Being open is something that will only make you more successful, because you can't ask somebody. I find it hard to ask people for trust, right? Or tell them, trust me, right? If I say to you, trust me, you're going to be like, what's he hiding here?
Yeah.
And you have to earn trust. And by being open in how you communicate, what you share, putting yourself out there, that builds trust one way or the other. And I think it's great that LinkedIn is a platform, and just in general, in networking situations, people are more game to open up, because it helps you recognize things for yourself that aren't specifically linked to the next job you have to get.
Yeah.
And aren't specifically linked to what you should do in your own like sort of journey. It just is stuff you can take in and digest and then use it moving forward. Yeah,
very right. And another topic that you just touched in your comment, in like what you just said, it's that it is not necessarily about like getting a job, landing a job now, but still a lot of people use LinkedIn and networking events. They understand it very specifically as an opportunity to, get a job. And like, I can also share my experience. Like I hear a lot here in the Netherlands, people talk about like, you need to have a network to land a job, nobody's going to hire you for really like a good position if you don't know people from the company or someone in your circle, this kind of things. And I do agree and disagree, because I have experience in both. Like when I just, moved to the Netherlands and I was looking for a job, I found the first one without having a network here. I guess maybe I was just lucky, they liked my sense of humor or something else that I impressed them with, but I got it. So when people tell me, no, you have to, like, I don't believe you, you have to have a network, I can say, no, guys, sorry, I'm a living proof that you can do it without. But I can also understand that it is partially very, very true that you, like, I mean, for what reason would you not have a network and try to build it if there are so many tools today to do that, so many tactics, so many like, interviews, content on how to do it right. And you don't have to do it 24/7. You can just, every day a little bit or every week, and then it adds up, right? And then talking about landing a job, because the current one that I have, a SpearPage, I exactly landed thanks to a networking event where I, just found, I got acquainted with one of the founders. And later on, like several months after that event, he actually remembered my name and, gave me a call and said, hey, we have, marketing position. So, and I remember we had a very nice chat with you back then. So why don't we give it a try, have an interview, a job interview. So I mean to say that both can work, it just depends on one hand on your luck, but also on how much you do, because I did attend this other event on networking, right? Back then I was there and I was very present. Though we were not talking about a job at that moment, we were talking about just some general stuff and life, but it did give a good impression, I guess, and landed me a job, even I wasn't looking for one at that moment. Do you have experience with that, like landing a job by just networking, or is it
Well,
the
I think
way you
it's,
do it?
again, I think your professional life is a journey. And so if you don't always have to be, I mean, I'll start with the story. I worked with a guy when I was a lot younger, and he encouraged me to not to not be disloyal, but not to never stop chasing the ideal job. And I know that that sounds like, well, how will you ever be,
Define
how will
it.
you ever be, sort of content and be a good worker if
Mhm.
you're not, if you don't know, if you know you're not in your ideal job? And that's not the point. The point is to never stop being open-minded. And that's where networking comes into play, because if you aren't opening your mind to other people's perspectives and what they're going through and what they can potentially teach you, and just listening, in a lot of instances, a lot of what I enjoy is listening to what other people are up to, what they're
Yeah.
interested in doing, and just seeing how I can help by a connection or somebody else that I know. That just helps you have it all, like have so many more tools, to your point, have so much more value sort of banked up, so that when you are ready to sort of take the leap, or at least open your mind to your own next step, there's a lot of people that are surrounding you that could be offering potential advice and introductions, because we still have a major access problem in the world to opportunities. There are schools that qualify people, by a higher education, or just the community that you get when you go to that school in, be it the US or in another country, that it gives you a higher likelihood to get introduced to the right places. There are companies, due to their training, due to their alumni networks, that do the same. I personally believe, and that's why I love taking time out of my calendar to help connect people, because I personally believe we have this access challenge that, potentially based on your own background, your own values, where
Yeah.
you started in life, that's an issue. And so in general, I think it's good that people have their own networks to stay open-minded. I also would push more people to make the time in order to help sort of close that access gap that I think with technology we should be able to, because look at all the people that on the graph, like on LinkedIn's, graph, are all connected now. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and when I listen to you, I kind of get a feeling that you were, is it right or not? Like, tell me, you were always a little bit like the guy who could network, like you.
Yeah, I just feed off of it. It's, some people read, some people probably do professional sports. Some people, everybody has their way to get to know people.
Yeah.
And early in my career, I found it really, exhilarating to get to know and meet a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and to help me recognize different opportunities that I could chase and how they were able to do it. And, like I said, I'm a builder, so I see and learn from things that I believe have qualified if I created success. And I ask myself, like, how can I apply that either for me or for an opportunity or for friends?
Yeah.
I just, I love it, and I love to get to know people, and I think they offer so much. I mean, my background is that I am the oldest of 10 kids. So by nature, I was surrounded by lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
And so you have to do a lot of things to make it.
And communicate
Equally,
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be, you sort of have to scream sometimes to get what you want.
Yeah.
And I guess I recognized that screaming didn't work for me. So I had to figure out how to talk to people and get to know new people. And maybe there's a little bit here that I wouldn't appreciate, I wouldn't want played back in video, but part of me just wanted to get out of the house. And so I had to get to know a lot of people. So it's just like a mechanism to be independent.
Yeah. And do you think that connecting with people, networking, it's kind of a habit? Like, for example, at Peerpage, we try to look at it as, something like a healthy mental habit, that it's not necessarily something, I mean, it's actually the opposite. It shouldn't be something that you do sometimes, because then it's like with, training yourself, I guess, in anything, be it physical or mental. if you want to get the result, you need to do it like on a constant basis, and then you have to like keep on doing it and be better and better at it. That's how you kind of train this muscle. But the same with networking. Like, I mean, when you just start, I can imagine a lot of people, they think, okay, where do I start? I don't have any background. I mean, my English maybe is not that good, or some other things that prevent them from doing it. But then would be right to say that, you know, the more they do, and if they actually challenge themselves to do it on a regular basis, so like, I don't know, every Thursday or every Friday, like at 12 o'clock, no matter what, I just talk to one person, I send a message or invite for a coffee, be it at work or for like my own, you know, my network on LinkedIn. I just keep on doing it because
you got to practice. You got to practice. I think that there are a couple of things you said that I really believe strongly in. One is talking to people out of your comfort zone, and more importantly, like out of your country, out of your state, out of your region, et cetera, et cetera. Immediately, you're going to learn something just by chatting. So there's no forced value exchange. Immediately, by meeting somebody new that's in a different place in the world, you're likely to come away with a totally new perspective that will, if it doesn't help you professionally, it's going to help you personally. The other thing you said that I think is 1000% true is that you need to make the time. If you believe that you want to grow your community and grow your sort of network and learn from it, then you need to make the time and have no expectation. You need to have intention in terms of, if I do this well, I will get to X place, right? You need to have an endpoint in mind, changing potentially your career, growing in a certain area. Like, I think those goals should be on your mind, because you should never just waste the conversation with somebody. But equally, in order to have the conversation, you have to start. Like I said, full circle, the hardest thing about coming up with an idea is writing it down. You know, it's writing something on paper. So setting up, you know, making a note to somebody, writing a note to somebody and saying, hey, I'm available at these times, can we connect, is not easy. And just by doing that alone and setting up the meeting, you've taken a huge step. Now, don't miss that opportunity to get something out of it and for them to get something out of it. You've got to make sure, and this is why I really believe in Pay It Forward, you have to make sure that in that conversation, I would encourage anybody, if you want to leave a meeting and meet someone and leave that in a great place for what's next, to just keep the door open, but open really warmly, you got to ask, like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
So you need to know what you want, but equally you need to learn what you can offer. So ask, how can I help you 5 times? And I bet you're going to learn something new about yourself that you didn't know.
Yeah, even if you doubt that you actually can help this person with anything, you can just be honest and say, hey, I'm willing to do, like, if you need me, here I am. I mean, right? That's what you also mentioned, pay it forward. You just do something without expecting anything back. I mean, even if you do at some point, you will learn to let it go, because I think when you do networking more and more, connecting with people, we call it networking, but it's all about, like, you know, connecting, feeling that we know each other, that I know more and more people, that I kind of belong to the society. It's all there. And then you start enjoying the process more and more, and not so much the result even, but just, you know, to be able to talk to a new person, share your story, learn something new, and kind of feel like, yeah, it was a good day, you know, like, besides doing some work and helping the family and other things, I also met another person. I mean, today in the world when everyone works online and there's so many tools to connect online, and talk non-business stuff, then yeah, why not use it, right? It's just
absolutely
makes your life more fun. Maybe
really
last thing I wanted to, like, touch on, you know, I can imagine that there are people like you know, I don't know how much time for you you make to, you know, network. I can imagine that it's part of your daily activity. So but there are people that say, okay, I have a job, I'm busy enough, I network. And when I ask them, like, do you network? And they say, yes, I do. I go into meetings.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly networking, right? And so my questions would be like, how do you think the company, should they be facilitating some time for people to, at work, to do networking at work, so that they really dedicate time for it? Yeah, what maybe recommendations could you give on that? But also for people, how to change their perspective a little bit, like not think about work as I work, but also, you have maybe 100 colleagues, maybe 1,000 colleagues, maybe 5,000 people that you have a chance to get in touch throughout the year. If you just set up some, coffee breaks together or something. So, I mean, not only go on LinkedIn and connect with some people that you definitely don't know and maybe will never meet in your life, but next to that, you have a chance to use your colleagues in that way.
Yeah, I see where you're
engage
going. Yeah, I
them in
mean,
a way. Yeah.
I think what's great is that now post-pandemic, or one of the learnings from the pandemic is how important people are to organizations. I think in, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we're in this point of like IT transformation. And now I think we're definitely in this moment of culture transformation. And people are not just a cost center, right? People are like a real growth driver.
Yeah.
Companies still recognize, and I think a lot of people know, that they're under leveraging that human potential that exists in their organizations. And you can't just force it, right? It has to be organic. So, tools, I agree. I mean, you can set that up. I think where it probably starts is by baking something in, some part of your professional growth or personal development, based on how companies qualify it, should be linked to, broadening perspective, right? Or increasing sort of connective tissue to other places in the organization, or demonstrating collaboration at all new levels, right? New levels, new value, et cetera, expand at will. And I think that if that was done, then it's easily justifiable to have people definitely put time aside to intentionally connect with new people. So I don't think anybody's cracked it. I think it's like you're talking about something that is just as hard to crack as what's the workplace of the future. Way of working in the future has to change as well. I do think practicing conversations with people you've never met before, or that you have in your same organization, and you don't know exactly what value they can offer, but there's no demand from their time, is valuable to a certain extent, right? Like, because we're all trying to get things done, and who wants to eat into personal life? But it's highly likely that in that moment, if you carve it out, you're going to get something that could help you personally and professionally. And that's the key, right? Like, that's why back to the whole point. That's why I love to meet new people, because you never know what it's going to give you. And then what you can give them.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't get you anywhere further, you might just enjoy the conversation, right?
That's right.
So
I would encourage people to be intentional about it, because I think that I was protecting time like every week over a certain amount of, of blocks. I was protecting it on my calendar. And I said, I want to help so many people get access to opportunities via my network. That's my way of sort of giving a little bit extra to the world.
Yeah.
After time, over time, on top of everything else, it starts to feel onerous, right? It starts to feel like another job. So I think that when you're intentional about what that can do, and you're smart about how it works into your calendar, that would be some advice I would give. I know it's like super tactical, but saying, okay, like, these are moments in my day where I'm already probably getting a coffee, or I'm already like taking a breather, and I'm cool that like there's this moment where I'm going to use that to say hi to somebody else, and not make it 30 minutes, by the way. It can be 10. What are you doing this week? How's your life? What sort of things are you thinking about right now? That in 10 minutes can be refreshing. It can serve all the same purposes as that coffee, that break, that walk outside. And by the way, just do it then on your walk, right? I can't tell you how many people call me during the week. I'll pick the phone up thinking it's urgent, and they're on a walk outside, getting a breath from the office or from the home, and they just want to see what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So they just have something on their mind. I love it because they're thinking of me, and that's like really incredible. But equally, it just shows that like they're looking for somebody. So if you can imagine, there are a lot of people looking for somebody. What if a company enabled that as part of training? Like, it'd be huge.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, making time for it, and maybe also not. I mean, everything that we discussed, in a way, we can say that, you know, networking is definitely worth doing it. It's something that gives you some. It can get you somewhere, but it can also just give you a very good feeling of your day or of your week if you make time for it. But also you can define yourself how much involved you want to be, right? It's something you do on your own. So you decide, like you said, you did it at some point very much, like you were very much engaged in that. It was like mandatory for you to do it on a regular basis. But then, you know, people can choose whether they want to do it like that, or just, you know, they want to do it like maybe once a week, but keep on doing it, and it will be more and more fun, definitely. And the phrase that I love, that I recently read, was like, human connections fuel success. I think that's a great phrase to like wrap up this interview, finish it on this very positive note, unless you want to add something to that. But it was great having you and talking to you, and I think we got a lot of tips. If you want, you can maybe like summarize your 5 top tips on networking that people will definitely.
I mean, 5 is a lot. So I typically work in 3. So I think the first, like you said, and like we've all like want here, is that I do think we owe it to each other to make time to help when people need it. And so get in your head, if you've had some professional success, even a step ahead of where you think you should be, recognize that there's somebody that's trying to get there as well. So first off, be open to make time to network when people reach out. I think the second thing is then building that into your sort of professional toolkit. You never know where a conversation is going to go. And you should look at, like, if you have a goal or you are looking to close a gap on skills, the best place to start is by talking to somebody that lives that all the time, right? And then finally, the ability to offer and ensure that there might not be any sort of corporate ask when you're talking to somebody, but there certainly should be intent mapped to a longer term goal, mapped to some kind of excitement you have, because you've got to be there. And otherwise it can come off as a waste of time. So I would say network intentionally, conversation with intent, and then equally intent to not only get something for yourself, but to offer something back. Yeah,
that's kind of cool win-win. All right.
Absolutely. Maria, this is one of my favorite subjects, but equally one of my favorite practices. So love talking about it. And I am here for anybody that is interested in, their own progression. If I can help, so be it, reach out.
Great. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge, your findings. It was very nice and interesting to talk to you. Good luck. Thank you. It was very useful. Very nice.
Great. Take care, Maria. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. You too. Bye. See you.